Welcome to the channel, folks. Welcome to another video. Today we're talking fast, talking furious, talking Fast 7, the last one with Brian as a character. The one where two bald guys sword fight with their tools. Okay, let's break this thing down. So this is Fast 7, the last one with Paul Walker, and also the first one post-Tokyo Drift in the timeline. To review this one, I'm going to start with a plot rundown, then highlight some good things and some bad things. Straight review on this movie. So, to begin at the beginning, this race war scene, good enough. Just a way to get a race into the movie. Gotta check that box. And going back to race wars, from the first movie, is a well-played tie to Letty being back but having no memory. But don't forget, you know what happens when a race scene happens? The 3-foot dolly shot. There it is. See that box right there? Go ahead and check it. The race goes down, Letty wins, freaks out, and runs off.
Get out, boys! I'm gonna R-U-N-N-O-F-T!
And I love this next part, where we get a scene with Brian O'Connor behind the wheel and revving the engine, ready to go. But then not, gotcha! It's just a minivan and he's just dropping his kid off at school. Very clever. Did anyone else notice it's a Chrysler minivan, as in Chrysler Dodge Plymouth? A Mopar? Come on. Brian drives imports. He would have a GTR blue Nissan Quest minivan, not a Chrysler. Maybe it was a gift from Uncle Dom. Either way, they finally got him behind the wheel of a Mopar in one of these movies. But there were a couple other instances of Brian in a Mopar in the franchise. Let me know what they are down in the comments. The plot finally starts when the house blows up and Dom realizes there's another big bad guy after them. He's killed Han in Tokyo and hospitalized Hobbs as well, which is a pretty great fight scene. This big bad was of course teased at the end of Fast 6, and this new guy, it's Deckard Shaw, played by Jason Statham, older brother of Owen Shaw, the villain from Fast 6. Deckard is after Dom and the team for the role they played in hospitalizing his brother Owen. Next up, Dom visits Hobbs in the hospital for some exposition. Then Dom travels to Japan for some fan service. Apparently uninterested in Han's funeral, Dom ditches to chase Shaw alone, but is intercepted by Mr. Nobody, Kurt Russell's character, and semi-recruited to find Ramsey, a kidnapped hacker with a special program called God's Eye. The deal is that if Dom gets Ramsey back and Ramsey has God's Eye as expected, then Dom can use God's Eye to find Shaw and use Mr. Nobody's SWAT team to kill him. Dom of course obliges, along with the team. The team determines how to best hit a convoy carrying Ramsey, and Roman plays a part in determining how they will pull it all off. The team creates a plan, designs some special cars, parachutes out of a plane in their cars to rescue Ramsey. The parachute scene is done practically, along with the bus chase scene that follows. They get Ramsey. They then switch from the living MacGuffin named Ramsey to the electronic MacGuffin called the speed drive, and God's Eye is on the speed drive. They go to Abu Dhabi to get it. And I have to pause here and talk about these cars, because I love this. They all have ID'd cars in this scene. We got Roman in the Bugatti Veyron. Very Roman Pierce. We see him in another Bugatti like this in Fast 8. There's a Ferrari 458, that's Tej. McLaren 12C, gotta be Brian, and it's in his signature blue color too. There's a Dodge Viper. Letty is driving that, which makes sense because she's Mrs. Dom, and Dom is always in a Chrysler. And this scene's no different. Dom right there in a Dodge Charger. Okay, back to the tower scene to get the new MacGuffin, the speed drive. What's our plan this time? Well, this time the team decides to use another 3-foot dolly shot as a distraction to allow them to steal the speed drive. They then use it to find Shaw, go after him, screw that whole thing up, have a fight scene, let Shaw get away, and lose God's Eye to the bad guys. Our heroes are at their lowest point. Sounds like the end of Act 2. So now the good guys have Ramsey and the bad guys have God's Eye. The old switcheroo. The bad guys want Ramsey back because she can lock them out of God's Eye. The final scene is the team keeping Ramsey out of the way of the bad guys long enough to allow her to hack back the God's Eye. Cue up some great driving scenes. Dom goes off to fight Shaw solo. The Rock, still in hospital, flexes out of his cast and hand fires a minigun. Shaw gets arrested. So that's a little rundown of the plot. I didn't like this one as much as the previous two. It isn't as strong plot-wise. Another way to put this is that the speed drive is a MacGuffin plus. Not quite a pure MacGuffin, but also Ramsey herself is used as a MacGuffin twice in this movie. Overuse of MacGuffins, animate and inanimate. Contrast this to Fast 5 where cars on the train were seized by the DEA, which ends up making sense because Reyes is a drug lord and they're his cars. So the cars aren't MacGuffins. The chip is a MacGuffin, but we don't know about it yet. And once we know about it, it's not a MacGuffin anymore because it leads to the money, and it's now the money we're after, which isn't a MacGuffin, it's real money. And another thing, Deckard Shaw just keeps showing up everywhere. Seemingly in every scene he appears magically. Are we sure he doesn't have God's eye? Because he seems to be able to find folks pretty easily and quickly. But moving on from the use of MacGuffins, the plot details just aren't as tightly wound. For example, the speed drive with the God's eye device is just in the tower, in the hypercar. A convenient excuse for a cool action scene and an extra 3-foot dolly shot. There's no real reason for it to be there. In Fast 5, the money isn't just in the police station because it happens to be there. It's there because Reyes puts it there because he has most of the police on his payroll. And Reyes puts it there based on what the team does, setting some of the money on fire. It's cause and effect. Team sets the money on fire, Reyes moves it to the most secure location he has, which in his case is the police station, because he's so powerful. This is better than if it just happened to be in the police station, or in this movie, it just happens to be in the tower. The writing is just not as tight in this one. The one thing this movie does right, though, is control the characters' motivations. It would have been easy for this to go off the rails. With Digimon Hansu's team, Shaw's chasing them, working sort of in line with the government through Mr. Nobody, the movie could have easily lost touch with the proper motivations. See my review of Fast 8 for the results when this does happen. But in this one, it didn't. In this one, the team is acting because they are being hunted by Shaw and also want revenge on him because he killed Han and attacked Hobbs. They want the God's Eye device so that they can find Han's killer and get revenge. They are later acting to protect Ramsey, who has become part of the team. These are proper motivations for these characters in these movies. This movie gets it right. A distraction for me, of course, was the search for places where they used CGI and Paul Walker's brothers to finish the movie. Some are obvious and some are not so obvious. Also, this movie is packed with fan servicey stuff. This is because Letty is coming back onto the team, but also due to all the little things they had to do to send Paul Walker off correctly. I think the CGI Brian scenes and sending Brian off correctly bits had its greatest negative effect on the attempt to set up Letty and Dom's relationship. Setting this up and making it emotional for everyone, but with no memories, is difficult and well enough done here, but doesn't get paid off properly. Possibly because it just wasn't well written, but more likely because of the reworking of the plot due to Paul Walker's death. But whatever the reason, the lack of proper setup and payoff with Dom and Letty's plotline hurts the movie. However, Paul Walker passed away. They had to do it. They had to send him off properly, so they did what had to be done. A nice detail on this point is when they make it back to LA for Act 3, they stand overlooking Los Angeles at the same spot where we first see Brian driving the Green Eclipse in the very first movie. Our first introduction to Brian. Decent touch. The strongest point in the movie is the plane drop, bus chase, and Ramsey rescue, but especially the dialogue scene that follows. Ramsey's breakdown of the team. Her description of the team and what it shows about them is great, and goes to my point in the Fast 6 review, which is that this is not just a team. They are more than that and are not driven by fear or coercion, but something else. Ramsey has been held by a team that is driven by fear and coercion and can instantly tell the difference. This scene is great, but the movie lacks anything more than this as far as ways to demonstrate what the team is. Fast 5 had the team in all its glory. Fast 6 had the soulless, precision bad guy team versus our beloved hero team. This movie, it just has the team working. There's no real foil to them in this movie, like in Fast 6. Now, of course, I'm doing this after having seen and reviewed Fast 8, so I can say that this movie is much better than that one, but it doesn't quite have all of what a Fast and Furious movie needs. My biggest issue is the prevalence of CGI. The series is known for using practical effects, and there was too much CGI in this one. The bigger and crazier they make the action scenes, the more CGI they'll be forced to use. However, the final action scene was just weak. It's all obvious CGI and is a huge letdown from the airplane drop and bus chase scenes, which mostly use practical effect. Act 3 was basically just one big CGI nightmare. That murder drone was awful. It was so bad that they had to make it a night scene to darken everything so you couldn't tell what was going on. The scene looks so bad to me that I want to accuse them of shooting that originally as a day scene during daylight hours and then making it a night scene because it looks so bad with CGI. So that's what I thought about Fast 7. Weakest part is definitely that final action scene. Overall, it was good and I recommend it. It had just enough of what makes a Fast and Furious movie work, but barely. And as always, if you want more Fast and Furious content like this, double tap that like button and fly your murder drone over to that subscribe button and hit it too. Till next time, stay fast, stay furious.